Good morning everybody, welcome back to my channel. Belinda here from Visualized NZ. It's Tuesday today and that means it's time for Trashcraft Tuesday. So I've got this project that's actually part of my 100-day project. For my 100-day project I am trying to do 100 days of making collage fodder. It's quite early in the process and I'm already, my brain's sort of struggling to come up with ideas. But miraculously something always occurs. But I was doing this at the weekend for part of my 100-day project and I just love it. Like, it's really simple but it's so much fun and it's very, very effective. And so I thought I'm going to do this for my Trashcraft Tuesday video. I'm using the backings from napkins, from paper napkins, you know, those white sheets that you tear off the back and end up with a bundle of that are just sort of floating around, or maybe you ditch them. So I think they fall within the trash category. So I've made these ones. This one is very, very subtle. I don't know if you can see the colour particularly well. Very soft pastel-y in pink, blue and yellow. And this was with distress inks. And then the rest of these are a combination either of other ink, non-water reactive ink, and distress inks, or just the non-water reactive ink. So things like Stampin' Up, Ranger archival inks, those sorts of things. So just whatever I've got in my arsenal basically. So whatever you've got available is good. Go with it. It doesn't need to be water reactive. If you don't have distress inks, then you get some beautiful results anyway. So this one here is just with, I think, pretty sure it was Stampin' Up ink. In fact, I don't think I used my Ranger ink, so I'll play with those today. So just lovely, lovely texture, and it's not boring, plain white anymore. So really love how these turned out. This one is a combination of distress inks and Stampin' Up ink. And I actually tore this one when I was doing with it, but it's going to be torn up anyway for collage, so it's not a problem. I've folded them all up because it's easier to store them folded. This one again was distress ink with with some Stampin' Up ink. So it's got a nice blended watery colour with some darker marks. This one was just Stampin' Up ink. I mean, how awesome. Like, I think that is fabulous. So I want to play with some different colours today too. This one was just distress inks in blue and yellow. Different method for this one though. It looks like it's got a little bit of pink on it, but I think that was just transfer from the sheet I had underneath. And then this one again is just Stampin' Up ink, and again it looks like it's got a bit of pink in it. But in this case I think it's actually the print from the paper napkin that came through on this next layer under it. So that was actually already on there. But look at that wonderful texture. So we're going to play with that today. It's very, as I said, very simple. It's very quick to do. So we'll see what we get done. Now, I don't actually need a sheet underneath, but I'm going to put that in there anyway. I do recommend a glove because you will get covered in ink otherwise. So I just use one glove just because actually I can't be bothered going and getting another one out, and this is one I've used for painting and stuff, so it's all fine. You'll need some blank backings from paper napkins. So this one's actually got a little bit of the print from the napkin on it, and you need to separate them into single layers. So if it's a 3-ply napkin, actually I need to take the glove off for this. You need to separate them into their individual layers. So I'm just going to do that. So those ones, I grabbed out a whole bunch. I was busy before I turned the video on going through my napkin box and just peeling off the backings of some because I'd used up all the ones that were already loose in my session at the weekend doing this, and I thought I just need to do more because they're so pretty and I can see myself using these as long as I store them somewhere handy, because if they're not somewhere close by me, then they won't get used because I'll just forget that I've got them or where I put them. So I'm going to make sure they're close to me so I can use them as often as I please. Now this one's a smaller one. Is it 2 layers? Sometimes it's hard to tell whether they're 2 layers or one of the backing. I have a feeling this is 2. Yes, it is. There we go. So it's a smaller, cute size actually. I don't mind that size. Again, this has got pattern from the napkin on the first blank layer. And so if you have that, it doesn't matter. It will just add background colour and texture to your inking that we're going to be doing. So it's very wet here today, incredibly wet. It's not too cold, although I suspect I will be lighting the fire a bit later on. But yeah, I just wasn't expecting it to be so wet today because we had a beautiful weekend and, you know, things were going really well, and then rain, and not just a little bit of rain but quite heavy consistent rain. Right, there we go. So I've separated my little pile here out into their individual layers. So pop them up there. And there's a few different techniques I use with this. Now, one of the techniques I wanted to do, I would have wet the napkin, inked it, let it dry, and then done the next layer. But I don't have the warmth or the sunshine to dry them quickly. So I'm going to have to miss that out. But one of the techniques you can do is wet your napkin just with a spritz of water, and use distress ink if you've got it, or some other water reactive ink, and lay down some colour, then let it dry, and then come back in with a non-water reactive ink and add some of the darker details. And that's what I did with the likes of this one. So I did want to play with that technique more, but it won't be today. So I'm going to throw on my glove again and take a sip of my coffee actually before it gets too cold. It's nice and warm at the moment, but it's not going to take long to cool down. Right, so what colour would I like to start with? Maybe this crisp cantaloupe, and I think, yes, I have done this one. It's what I used for this one here, but I used it in conjunction with the distress ink. So I'm just going to use it by itself and show how I achieved just those. So take your serviette, scrunch it up loosely and dip it onto your pad, and just keep rotating it and change your scrunch and re-scrunch it to get a different area, and you just keep going and dipping until you're happy with how it looks. I mean, it's so simple. It's ridiculously easy to do, but it's super satisfying. Like, it's fun. Trust me guys, give it a go. It is so much fun. And I think sometimes the simpler the thing is to achieve, the better. And you know, this is something anybody could do. Your children could do this. They could have a ball. Just scrunching, dipping, re-scrunching, moving it round, like you're constantly moving. Just making sure you get all the bits, and it doesn't matter which side, whether you're stamping the front or the back or both, because the colour, because it's so thin, the colour will go through. So don't worry about that, just keep moving it around. and then get to a certain point and you think, okay, am I done? Open it out a little bit, see if there's anywhere that you would like to add some, and go again. Like, how can this go wrong? Even if it tears, if you're a bit rough in handling it, it's what it's for. It's for tearing up anyway, so there's no dramas, no worries. Okay, getting there, and just stop, you know, with whatever coverage you're happy with, whether it's a lot or a little. Yeah, just stop when you're ready. So I'm going to call that done. Now, when I was doing this at the weekend with the sun, I was laying them on the side of my desk in the sunlight, and they dried really quickly. If you're not using water, like, that's perfectly fine. You can just sit them to your side or something. What do you reckon, guys? Do you think that's worth the effort? I mean, it's not a lot of effort, to be honest, but like, I'm just in love with this. It's so fun. Gives me a lot of pleasure. Right, so we've done that. Let's do, now this colour I haven't done yet, and I haven't done Ranger ink, so I'm thinking maybe I'll combine two. So let's start with the small ink pad and do the same process. I'm going to scrunch it up, and so you get a bit of lines because of the smaller ink pad. You do get some hard lines along the edge here and there, but that's just part of, you know, the pattern making, the abstract quality. Doesn't matter. I'm going to give it a good dose of this Ranger, which is Vivid Chartreuse is the name of this, and you can dunk it in hard, you know, really press it in if you want darker colour, dip it lightly if you just want a blush of colour. So many ways you can sort of play with this and have fun. And even if you had plain coloured napkins, like they're just all one colour, and you wanted to you know, make those a bit different, then you could do that here as well. I don't have any of those. Actually, I do tell an untruth. I've got this brown one that I had left over from my lunch yesterday, Sunday. So I could try it on that brown one. But, you know, if you had a plain blue one or whatever, you could try this. And I think it would work lovely as long as you chose a colour that shows up. But that's something you could do too, to just jazz up those plainer serviettes, because the plainer ones are often cheaper as well. You know, the good quality ones, they can be cheaper if they're plain, because they're not all pretty, you know, printed with pattern and things. Right, so I'm going to call that good for the Vivid Chartreuse. So I haven't gone too overboard with it, just here and there. Right, so open up this one, it's Wild Wasabi. I bought all my Stampin' Up! Stamp pads second hand. Oh yes, nice contrast in the greens there, which is what I was hoping for. Oh, I can't tell you how much fun I'm having. Like, you'll just have to believe me. It's super fun. Just dipping. That's a great way to spend a rainy morning. It really is. Just fun, fun, fun. And all this collage material, collage fodder. I mean, it's going to be so cool to use. How are we getting on? And the beauty of this too is it ends up all nicely and crinkled. So you add texture to your projects as well. You can, when you glue it down, So just deviating for a short minute here. So when you glue it down, you can smooth it out as flat as you want without tearing. So you can glue it flat like that, so it's not crinkled. Or when you glue it down, as you glue it down, you can sort of scrunch it and add even more wrinkles than what it's got. Or you can just glue it loosely down so it retains all this lovely crinkly texture. You know, so you could just like put your glue down and then just like basically pop it down with that texture on it. So like, it's versatile. It really is a versatile material to use in lots of different ways, layering up, adding some texture, some colour. It's going to be good, guys. I'm telling you, you need to do this. It's so much fun. Makes me wish if you could go out and just buy like packets of blank. And actually you can buy packets of blank serviettes. They tend to be lower quality, but they are much cheaper. You know, and like when you go to a restaurant and you grab, you know, a few serviettes for your lunch or whatever, and then you never end up using them all, tuck them away, bring them home and turn them into some inky goodness. Beautiful. Right, so that's that one. I'll try and remember to show these at the end too, so if I forget to like give you a close-up, I will try to do that at the end. Right, what colour next? I'm thinking I do want to do a spritzy one, so it's not going to dry, so I think I'll just do Distress ink. So I'm going to spritz it, and you do need to be careful with this method because the serviette backing becomes very fragile. It's super easy to tear. And let's go blue for the Distress ink. So this is tumbled glass in the Distress ink. And again, I'm just going to loosely bundle it up and dab it in. And I found with the Distress ink, you do need to press it a bit firmer, depending on the colour. So the lighter pastel-y colours kind of need to give it a, you know, a good sort of dab in there. And just being very gentle. So you might not want to do the water technique with children, because I can imagine, you know, we don't want tears because their serviette will completely rip to shreds and is actually unusable, because you could easily do that using this wet method. So you might want to keep this one for adults or teenagers or something, you know, who can just be a bit more gentle and careful. And even being careful, you can still very easily just tear it to shreds. Another thing I would caution you against, which is how I ripped that one of mine, is don't scrunch it too hard when it's wet, because I thought if I scrunch it, it'll help the ink move through. And so I gave it a really good squeeze, and then it was so tightly wound that I couldn't undo it without it tearing. Maybe if you left it to dry before trying to open it up, it might work better. I haven't tried that, so you could certainly try that and see if it, you know, if it survives in a better condition after squeezing. But yeah, just a little tip there that I found from personal experience. Right, how's this one looking? So I do find this a much subtler effect, which is quite pretty. Okay, I'm happy with that, but I think I'm going to add another colour, and I'm getting some green off of my glove, and that's fine. I'm not worried about that. Let's go yellow. So this is mustard seed. Oops, that's right. I always forget that this mustard seed is very vibrant. It's such a cool colour. But I was sort of doing the pastel-y method of pushing it down quite hard, and it's like, oops, that's a lot of colour. But that's all right. Gosh, it's raining so much. We're definitely in autumn. Like, it's end of summer and then suddenly, like, bang. Yep, we're in autumn. We had fog last week, like thick fog. And it was like, gosh, normally you sort of get that later autumn. But no, it was full on thick fog. Right, let's have a look. And then I'm being daring because it's quite soft and fragile. I'm gonna give it some more water. And then just see if I can get some of that. And actually, I probably, what did I do with my sheet of paper that I had? I should probably do it on here so I don't get my mat all inky. And just transfer some of that colour into other places if I can. Yep, that's working. If the area you're trying to transfer to is dry, just use a wet area with colour on. Right, yeah, it's getting very, very sticky to itself with the water, and I just tore it just a little bit at the edge, so it does get quite what's the word? I'm trying to look for a different, oh no, I didn't rip it there, I thought I had. I'm trying to think of a different word than fragile, but right, and now I'm not sure where I'm going to put it to dry. So just spreading out some of that colour a little bit, so we've got some darker spots and some lighter spots. And you probably can't see that well because of the coloured paper underneath. So I don't know whether it will dry in time for when I'm finished. Maybe I'll just drape it over the drawer here. The drawer where I keep my stamp pads. And see if it will dry. Right, so I think I'm going to stick with the dry technique just because I don't think it's going to really dry in time. So what's next? Let's do orange. I haven't done orange, so I've done that coral colour, but so I'm going to use the what's it, monarch orange in the archival ink, and let's do some. Actually, I see I've got ink on my mat, so I'm just going to wipe that up. And so I've got a bit of yellow on there. So let's go some of this and dab, dab, dab. I'm not going to do this whole video, by the way, guys. If I can stop. Like, I have grabbed out a whole bundle to do, but I probably won't do it all on camera. Maybe we'll look at using some in a project. Might be fun. So you can get an idea of how, when, where to use it. Beautiful. And maybe I should do some red. I haven't done red. So maybe I'll combine the red with the orange. That could be nice. And because it's got that yellow, a little bit of yellow, not much, but a little bit. Sort of all those hot colours. Right, so here we're going. So you can spend, you can spend ages sort of going around and making sure every little bit's covered. Just depends what you want, what effect you're going for. And if you come to use it and there's some blank patches that you think, oh, I wish it had a bit more colour, then just as you go to use it, dip it in some more ink. If you decide that, oh, that one's really cool, but I'd like to add another colour, then add another colour. If you're putting it on a project, say you've got using something like this and you're putting it on a project and there's in the background there's maybe a bit of blue. Then just grab a blue ink pad and add a little blue through it. So you can customize it on the go as well. Right, so red. Let's go red. So I've got vermilion in the Ranger. Dab, 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 dab. Dab, 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 dab. Dab. And of course, scrunching it up helps get, you know, those different ridges and patterns. And you could, I guess, lay it down flat, but you're going to get sort of the shape of the pad coming through more strongly. But I think scrunching it is just fun. Like, this is definitely my preferred method, is scrunch. The good old scrunch. I'm liking that. I think that's very cool. And I'm wanting to add some yellow as well. I like the little peaks of yellow. But I'm going to do it with the Pineapple Punch Stampin' Up ink. So this is a different, I'm not sure which one's older, whether this is the new style or the old style, because you know, I only buy second hand because it's the only way I can afford these branded things, apart from like the Ranger. When you buy these in packs of, I think it's 4 pads in this small size, a lot more affordable than buying, you know, the large size pads individually. So those were new. This is going to be a triple coloured one. And in those ones I'd done, I don't think I did 3 colours on any of them. It was either 1 or 2. So this is just extending it a little bit, trying something a little bit different, and I hope yeah, I think so. I hope I'm on frame for all of this so you can actually see what I'm doing. It'd be disappointing to get to the end of the video and find that you couldn't see what I was doing. It doesn't make exciting viewing, does it? If you can't see what I'm doing. Ooh, yeah. I think that's pretty. So pretty. Love that. Cool. I'm calling that one done. Right. I think I'll do one more because I haven't done like a true pink. So, and the only pink I've got is the Ranger Archival Vibrant Fuchsia. Although, shuffling around my pads, I do also have Berry Burst, but is that pink? Is it red? It's kind of somewhere in between. Maybe we'll mix these two together and do the double colour. So let's start with this Ranger one. Serviette had some colour on from the napkin. So I do use those terms interchangeably, serviette and napkin, because I've noticed Americans tend to use the term napkin, whereas in New Zealand I'm used to using serviette. So if you're wondering what, you know, if I'm using different words, that's why, because it's natural for me to say serviette, but I'm trying to be more mindful of audience and calling it napkin. So forgive any sort of backwards and forwards on what I call it. So what is a serviette in America then? I'm curious, like, is it something different? Do they use the word serviette to mean something different than we use it? Because to us, these paper napkins are serviettes. So I'd be curious if somebody could tell me what a serviette means in America. Curiosity, eh? It's an interesting thing. In the interest of increasing my knowledge and educating me on cultural differences, do let me know. Or do you use, do you use serviette for paper napkins as well, or is it just like maybe a regional thing within the States, or whatever part of the world you're in? If you're in a different part of the world that calls it something different, then I'd be interested to hear that too. English name though, because I probably wouldn't remember a foreign word. Oops. Okay, you see that? I've got the glove stuck in between the lid. Funny. It was attached to me. Right, let's try the Berry Burst. I was very disappointed. I bought it secondhand and the surface is very, very damaged. I don't know if you can see. It's got all these cuts and marks in it. So I'm not super impressed with the person who sold it because they didn't say anything about it being damaged. But it's a beautiful colour and it is very juicy. Like there's lots of ink in it. And it just means that when I'm stamping with an actual stamp, like a clear stamp or rubber stamp or something, I've got to make sure I move it around. Otherwise it has voids where those cuts and things are. So yeah, it's just part of the danger of buying secondhand. You're trusting the person that it's of suitable quality or what have you. But yeah, I don't know how on earth they got it so damaged. It's really, really cut up. Like they've taken a knife or something to it. It's bizarre. It's truly bizarre. But yes, this was one of the last ones I bought, and it kind of put me off buying secondhand because I was like, it's not acceptable really. Unless you say in the listing that, it's damaged surface, but it's still very juicy, give people the option. But no, there was no mention that it was so badly damaged. And to be fair, I mean, maybe it was a long time since the person had used it herself and forgot. It might have been quite an innocent mistake. But in my mind, if you're listing something for sale, wouldn't you check it over? Make sure that's how you remember. Make sure it's still actually really juicy before you sell it. So, do a test stamp. Maybe even to show the colour as it turns out in the listing so people can see. Yeah, so I've become a bit shy. Plus, I don't really have the money to spend at the moment, and I've got quite a good range. Got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 Stampin' Up ink pads, so plus the ranges, plus the distress inks. Oops, that was a bit heavy-handed. I've forgotten that it's a very juicy pad and quite dark, but never mind. So we've got this darker splotch here, but isn't that pretty? So it is definitely more of a pinky red, dark red than pink, but I think the blend of the pink and that Berry Burst are very, very pretty. So yummy. Right, so I've still got all these to go, but I'm not going to put you through just me repeating that process over and over. I think you know how to do it now, because it's just so easy, people, and really quick. And I do have some ink and bits and pieces on my gloves, so let's just see if we can wipe that off a little bit. Not too successfully, but here we go, that'll do. So whip the glove off. My hand's all sweaty now, even though it's not hot. It's amazing how sweaty you get when you're wearing a rubber glove or a plastic glove, whatever they're made of. Right, how are we doing for time first? Yep, we're okay. Let's try making something. I didn't get to do this brown one, but yeah, I'll do that at some point. Right. So, what colour do I want to use? There's a choice. Oh, that's so pretty. Then we've got our greens. And this coral one. And then we've got our one, oops, I just ripped it more because I had put a stamp pad on top of it. This one is still very wet, so we won't be using this one. Let's maybe fold it in half so it's not prone to getting caught on anything again. So I would like to photograph these for my Instagram post for today. So I think I'll leave those intact for now and use one of these ones that I've already done at the weekend. So what would I like to make? I'm thinking maybe a tag. Shall we make a quick tag? So I've got a book page, glue page here that I've used as a glue page. We can make that into our tag base. So I'm just going to whip around. Actually, I think I want to just clean up this edge a little bit because it's a bit straggly. So let's take care of that first. So this is going to be a tall, narrow tag. Okay, make sure it's glued down nicely together around the edges. Oops, got a bit of lint or something stuck in the middle there. Let's get rid of that. Oh, it was glued on partly, but got it off. Right, here we go. So what colour am I feeling in the mood for? Kind of really like this one. Oh, so yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. And this was another pad, Stampin' Up! Ink pad that's very, very juicy. Do I want to cover the whole thing? Do I want to... You know what? I think I do. I think I want to cover the whole thing. So I'm going to take my page here and cover it completely in glue stick. And I'll trim it into the tag shape once I've finished doing the layering, and then I'll do the decorating. Right, now I'm going to attempt to scrunch it up a bit and not lay it flat. So you need to not lay it directly on the edge, because if you scrunch it when you've put it right to the edge, you're going to have gaps where it doesn't go, because you're taking up that, I don't know how to explain it, like you need some excess around the edges to pull into scrunch up. So just bringing in that texture, adding some wrinkles. Whoops, making sure I don't get the other side of it glued on. So can you see what I mean? Is like if I had put it right to the edge, then I'd have voids where I've pushed it in to create the wrinkles. Whoops, don't feel like I've got any glue under there. Either that or it dried too quickly, which is unlikely given the weather, but you never know. Okay, oops, and I just tore a hole in it, but you know what, that's all fine. So it does require a bit of care, but if you tear a hole like this, no biggie at the end of the day. We can just pop something over top of it. Right, so there we go. I think we'll call that good. I'm just going to trim around it loosely, and then I'll do the close trim just so it's easier to work with. So there we go. We've used a chunk out of that one, and I've managed to tear that in the middle as well. I think where that big splodge of ink was must have acted like water and made it a little softer there. Right, just giving it press down. Stuck to my finger, come on, get off. Annoying. Right, and of course I'll need to back these as well for writing on, but I can do that later. Okay, so we've got our little tear hole here, which is a perfect place to put a label or a wee flower or something. So let's do our tag shape. Like so. Oh, I'm already in love. That's just like so super cool. Okay, I am thinking a bird would be really nice on that. And sorry, I do have a habit of talking as I'm turning away from the camera to find something in on my shelves behind me. I do apologize. I do it all the time. I just forget. Like I forget that the camera doesn't pick up the sound so well. Now this could be tricky, finding one that's actually the right size, because it's quite narrow, so it might be a bit of a fruitless mission maybe, although yeah, no. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Could trim off just the branch a little bit on that one. Yeah, I think he works quite well. Do need to trim out some white bits here. And I think I want something behind him because he's a little bit blendy in. So I think maybe a bit of book page or something behind him, just to help him show up a bit more, or music paper or something. We'll have a look in a minute, see what I can find. Right, the rest of that might be easier with my fussy cutting scissors, since it's a reasonable sort of sized area. Oops. He's flying away, people. He flew away. Didn't go too far though. Just to the floor. Right, so we need to make sure we pop him over far enough that his beak doesn't get cut off. So right tail to beak he fits on. So just a little bit of branch to cut off, which I'll do once he's down. So what would we like behind him? I don't know if this is the right sort of shape of book page or music that I want, but and I don't like that straight edge at the top. I think it needs to be a bit taller after that. A lot of my pieces in here are the same height because they were trimmed off bulk pages I was making for journal pages, so I need to find something that hasn't already been cut down. Or, oh, I've lost it. Maybe a bit of dictionary page instead, because we've got, you know, a nice bit of height there. Just tearing off the blank edges very roughly. It's got some interesting shape to it there, which I like. Yes, I like that. And I think I will ink it up just a little bit. So I'm still thinking about that little hole I've got at the top where I tore the napkin and what I might like to cover it with. I mean, it would be perfectly fine to leave it as well, but I'm not going to. That, and I am going to use tacky glue to glue this down because of the texture of the napkin. So normally something like this I would use glue stick on, but I want to make sure it stays stuck down. Go. I don't think I'm going to distress around the birdie. I am going to trim this off because I think I can trim it basically in line with the tip of its tail, and that'll be good. The problem when you're gluing is like where you hold it to keep it still while you're putting the glue on without lifting the glue off on your finger. Always seem to run into that problem, especially with fine things like this. This is really quite small with some fine details. Okay, so that needs to go right against that edge, and perfect. Very nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. I'm thinking, do I want something roundish? or another thought is maybe leaves. If I've got leaves stamped here, running a bit low on my this feather. Actually, those grey feathers might work because it's a grey bird. Well, there's a little flower. Thought I had more leaves stamped out. I'm going to have to do some stamping of leaves, I can see. Got some like dandelion heads, but no, not liking those there. This little sprig of leaves. Not so fussed on the flower. No, it's not the right thing either. Some orange feathers. Nope. Some green feathers. I am surprised. I thought I had a whole bunch of leaves. Surely I haven't used them all. Okay, let's try feathers. I'm not going to completely fussy cut them out. I'm just going to leave a border around them. This is Ranger ink and it's shadow grey, so it's very, very pale, pale colour. Makes an excellent layering colour if you're, doing lots of stamping on a background. Let's see. Yes, I definitely need to do some stamping, which is good because I've got a whole bag of strips that need stamping on, so kind of perfect really. I could do something like that, and then aesthetic reasons, odd numbers are pleasing to the eye, so let's see, cut a third one, and I just so happen to have 3 stamped, so perfect. Something like that. I like that. I think that's just a little bit different. Do I want to distress around them? I think maybe I do, so let's go for it. I'm not sure if it's the right decision, but I'm doing it. So because they're so pale, I think just to help them show up a little bit more. And I need to distress around the edge of the tag as well. Okay, so let's pop these down. And then that will cover our area there, or my area I should say, where I tore the napkin. And number 3. Sorry, I'm not particularly chatty, am I? I started off quite chatty and then I kind of zoned out for a bit. And pop that one down there so it shows a bit of the text above it. Wipe the glue off my fingers where I got it everywhere, and see, hand I had the glove on when I was inking, and the hand that I didn't have gloved up. So I mean, really should probably use two gloves, but never mind. Right, so I'm really liking that, but I think I still need to add something else. A word, word, a number, something. So let me have a little think. Could go with a label too, of course. Let's have a look at a word first. I think it needs to be a sort of a decent sized word. Go that. Is this one too wide? I suspect it will be. Yes, it is. And I don't like the brown so much there. It's a bit too harsh. It's too small. Oh, what about you make my heart sore? Let's go with that. It's kind of appropriate for a bird, isn't it? Do I want to rough tear it or cut it? I think I'm going to cut it because there's not a lot of room at the bottom to tear. Let's just do it a square label kind of thing. Like so. Oh yes, I like that. But to give it sort of that more handmade look, that would be from like tearing it. I'm going to grab a black pen and I'm going to do a little border. And I'm going to do 2 lines to make it really funky and obviously hand done, like so. And that to me just makes it look mint, like it just finishes it off. Bit of ink, of course. So there's another tip for you. If you don't have any label stamps or frame stamps or anything, you just do a simple line frame like that, and really happy with how that looks. And you could do it in whatever colour you like. It doesn't need to be black. Black suited this particular look. A brown would look nice as well if you're doing a vintage effect. I'm just going to put that centered in the middle there, because we've got some things here, something here, so I think the middle works really well. I don't think I'm going to put a little hole in. I'm just going to leave that as is. Give it a bit of ink around the edge, give it some definition. And you could do more layering than just the tissue. I used just the tissue because I already had the book page background. But you could certainly layer it up, or just do part of it in tissue and, you know, collage it. That's what I'm trying to say. Collage it up. But I really like how that turned out. I think that's a fun tag. So there we go. And I'll just back it when I turn the camera off. So there we go, guys. That's our Trashcraft Tuesday for today, using up those blank napkin backings. I hope you give it a go, because honestly it's just a bunch of fun. You could sit here and watch TV and just stamp, you know, dab, and have a whole bunch of collage fodder at the end of a short space of time. So have fun, guys. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.